probably use a little more time drying. You kind of see it's, you know, the grain has shrunk and the little chaff or whatever around the, you know, grain has kind of opened up a little bit. Dried and opened up. So it comes out pretty easy. Just rubbing it between my hands. So for threshing the wheat, I'll be getting a machine to do it. That's taking the grain off the stalk. Tried doing a flail, and the flail works good. The shock of it hitting it, knocks the grain off good, the stubborn ones. But it sends the grain flying, you know, around. So if you're not in a room, you end up losing a lot of grain. So it seems like a threshing machine would do the best. Ooh, a nice breeze. And this is winnowing right now. Kind of tossing it up into the air. I mean, it's not a good breeze, you know, but tossing it up into the air. I was tossing a lot of grains up into the air and losing the grains. I'm using this gold pan. I don't know what this is. An 18-inch gold pan or something. Works just as good for getting the grain out of the chaff as it does for getting the gold out of the black sands. This works beautiful. And so I don't like flailing for the threshing. Stepping on it, it just moves the whole thing around, trying to grind it under your feet. Granted, I could eventually grind it down, but that would take a lot of footwork. So I'm thinking just go with a machine. For the threshing. And then for the winnowing, I'm just going to keep using this gold pan. This gold pan works great. Bad thing about it now is I'm blowing. It's not windy out, you know, it's going to be rainy. So this grain could have used a few days more to dry, maybe. You know, it looks pretty dry. But maybe a few days more. This has been maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. But it's supposed to be rainy tomorrow and the next day. So, you know, that would just get it wet. So I'm going ahead and wrapping up the grain and the clover today. Grain and clover seed today before it gets rainy. And this, for winnowing this wheat seed, just kind of same thing when you're panning gold. You just keep agitating it, agitate, rest, and the heavier gold and the heavier wheat settles to the bottom of the pan. And the lighter sands and black sands, or the lighter chaff haze, get pushed up to the top. With gold panning, you're washing up that black sand with water. And if it's windy, you know, there was a wind gust and it was actually blowing this chaff out. But by and large, it's not windy enough right now. There we go, a little wind. So I'm blowing it. Just while I'm agitating, blowing. and that does the trick. I don't got a big fan yet. I don't got a big house that needs cooling. Just a little USB fan. Once I got the house proper, you know, 36 by 24, it's gonna have a lot of windows, so there'll be a lot of breeze going through there, but probably not enough breeze for being that size. So I'll get a fan, you know, a big fan, big box fan. Not a big fan, but yeah, I guess your normal fan. For me, it's big. A normal fan would work good for this, just keeping a normal fan blowing. Have it tilted down and just agitate it in the pan while the fan's blowing on it. On like medium maybe or something. That might be good. Blowing is nice, but leaves you lightheaded. This is actually a pretty quick process, winnowing. A lot quicker than I thought it would be. The grain that I sow with, that I plant, I don't need to winnow good. Just good enough to know that I don't got any egg sacs in it. I've had 2 or 3 egg sacs in this so far. Some kind of a caterpillar, I suppose, I don't know. Like a 1/2 inch long, 3/16 wide oval. Cylinder kind of oval. Tan. Pretty much the same color as the wheat seed, but kind of like a cocoon, you know, like it was spun out of a silk type material. It might seem kind of tedious and a hassle, like processing staple crops. So I mean, the best crops to grow are the expensive ones, which for me is alcohols and tobaccos, because I do a lot of them and they tax them like crazy, you know. Tobacco's probably the best to grow, you know, like $1 worth of tobacco seeds turns into a couple $1,000s worth of tobacco. Granted, the processing for tobacco is trickier. Cigarette companies put ammonia, well, they put a lot of stuff in their cigarettes, ammonia being one of them, and they put it in there to kind of mild, you know, lessen the sharpness of the tobacco. With your cigar tobaccos, so you dry the tobacco, not quickly. You want it in a shaded area with a little bit of humidity and a little bit of breeze, so it does a gradual, steady drying. You don't want it drying too fast, you don't want it staying wet too long. But after you dry it, you gotta, well, traditionally what they do is they throw it into a big pile and they hose down that pile, getting it wet again. And then they turn that pile over every so often and re-wet and turn and re-wet to get the bacteria and things that naturally grow on the yeast or naturally grow on the tobacco. So different things have there are different microbes and things that prefer to live on them. You know, the living conditions on the plant are preferred. And, you know, like with grapes, and your fruits, the things with a lot of sugars, yeast prefer to grow on them because they got the sugars, and the yeast eat the sugars. And then it's like cabbage, you got your lactobacillus bacteria that grow on them. So when you know, fermenting a grape, it'll make alcohol. Fermenting cabbage, it'll make whatever that acid is, you know, that makes sauerkraut sour. I can't remember. You know, I'd want to say lactic acid, but I don't know, you know, because it's lactobacillus bacteria, or maybe lactic acid. And then you got like your tobacco, and when you put that, ferment that, you know, which is putting the tobacco in the pile and keeping it moist, not too moist, but moist enough. That's why you turn it, and you monitor the temperature and the moisture in it. So when you ferment tobacco, the bacteria and things on the tobacco make ammonia, which soften the sharpness of the tobacco. You know, so that's what they do for cigars. And then for cigarettes, it's mass produced and cheaper. So they just put ammonia in there, you know. So if you ever wonder why they put the ammonia and stuff in there, it's normally the bacteria do that through the natural process. That takes, you know, people, you know, you gotta monitor it and flip it and monitor it and flip it, you know. So mass production, you just pour some on some freshly dried tobacco, pour some ammonia on it, call it good. Oh yeah. So I mean, tobacco would be a good one to grow. I guess before getting back on track, might as well do one more tangent. So you got the yeast that like to be on the fruits, the sugar-filled things. But then you also have bacteria that make alcohol. And I can't remember. But I want to say it's a ginger bug. You take ginger, fresh ginger root from the ground, you know, and you put it in some water and maybe some sugar, and it'll ferment, you know, and become mildly alcoholic. I think that's a case of bacteria converting sugar into alcohol. Most bacteria don't, but I think the bacteria that grow on ginger do. I'm not sure on that one. That might be a good alternative to yeast. Yeah, back on track though. Not really worth growing staple crops for saving money. Better off growing things like tobacco. But it's still bizarrely satisfying growing them, because you actually need them to live. You don't need you can't live off tomatoes and peppers. Tomatoes and peppers are expensive, so you might as well grow them. You know, you eat them a lot and they're expensive, so you might as well grow them. But you're not gonna, you'll be malnourished if you eat them. Just those. Gave it a primary winnow. Still got a little bit of chaff. Most of it is connected to a seed still connected to a grain. So I'm just gonna give it another rub-a-dub-dub to help free it up a little. A quick rub-a-dub-dub, since I'll just be replanting it. Then I'm gonna do a final winnow. This is the wheat that I bought. Some nice large grains, you know, like this end is the growing tip of that, you know. Growing tip of that one. The growing tip of that one. And then this is mine. So since I'm replanting it, I didn't bother doing any better of a winnow. Got some good grains. You know, like it. Where's my finger? Oh, here we go. Like out of this grain right here, you know. Oh wait, that's the base of it. Oh, there's the growing tips. But it looks pretty good, you know. I think I'll be able to grow stuff with this. You know, kind of the other question I'm answering is how prematurely can you harvest it and have it still grow into a new plant? And I'm thinking probably about 70% of this grain will regrow into a new plant, and then the other 30 was just too premature, you know. Kind of, I'm thinking 3 pounds, 2.5 pounds. As is, this isn't even enough to replant the whole area, you know. But if it were better soil, it would be able to plant 10 times the area, or in a homestead situation, replant the area and provide you with 25 pounds of grain for making bread. So I'm gonna put this in Taco Bell bag. Oh wow, that one's got a hole. A different Taco Bell bag. And I got a lot of them, don't worry. And it's gonna be rainy, you know, the next few days. It's overcast today, so I'm gonna leave it in the Taco Bell bag until to kind of air dry. In here, I'm gonna keep it inside to air dry some more. Then I'll put half of it in maybe in a jar or something for storage, and then the other half, you know, once I get a nice sunny day, I'm gonna put in the solar oven along with the clover seeds and let those bake for a little bit. Kind of hard to tell through the glass, but it's like, and the glare of the sun, but it's like 1:55 or so. It's supposed to be rainy today, but it's not. So I'm gonna go ahead and do something. This is like half the clover seed, 4 things of clover, and like half the wheat and clovers. Pop those in there and let them bake for the day. Well, for the next couple of hours at least. I'd kill anything that's in there. Any bug eggs. Hopefully.